Hi, this is Alex from devstories.eu. OpenAI Agents SDK, episode 11 of 18. Even the smartest AI can accidentally leak a database secret if it pulls raw data straight into its context. You might assume your top-level safety checks catch everything, but those only run at the very start or the very end of a conversation. If you want to intercept sensitive data mid-workflow, you need validating actions, specifically tool-level guardrails. A common trap is assuming that agent-level guardrails protect your underlying systems. They do not. Agent guardrails process the user initial prompt or the final response sent back to the user. They are blind to the internal back and forth when an agent calls a database or a third-party API. If a rogue prompt tricks your agent into calling an internal tool, the agent-level checks will not stop it. To protect the tools themselves, the OpenAI Agents SDK provides tool guardrails. These sit directly on the function, acting as a mandatory checkpoint right before or right after the tool executes. There are two types you need to know. The first is the tool input guardrail. You apply this decorator to validate arguments before the actual tool runs. Say an agent tries to call a tool that deletes a user account. The input guardrail intercepts the arguments the agent generated. It checks if the provided user ID matches a valid format or if the current session has the correct authorization level. If the input fails this check, the guardrail stops the tool from running entirely. Instead of executing the deletion, it returns an error message directly to the agent. The agent then reads that error and can try again with corrected inputs without ever touching the actual database. Now, the second piece of this is the tool output guardrail. This operates after the tool successfully executes, but before the result is handed back to the agent. This is where you filter, redact, or validate the payload. Take a database lookup tool as an example. The agent asks for a developer profile, and the tool fetches the raw record. However, that record happens to contain an active API key starting with the letters SK-. If that raw key goes back to the agent, it enters the language model context window. That is a massive security risk. To fix this, you add a tool output guardrail to that specific lookup function. The guardrail takes the raw database result, scans the text for that SK- pattern, and replaces the actual key with a placeholder string like redacted. Only after this scrubbing process is the cleaned data handed back to the agent. The agent still gets the profile information it needs to answer the user, but the secret never leaves the tool-isolated execution boundary. This is the part that matters. In complex multi-agent workflows, different specialized agents might invoke tools in unpredictable sequences. You cannot rely on prompting the agent to behave securely. You also can't hope the final output filter catches a leaked key right before it goes to the user, because by then, the key has already been exposed to the language model. You must lock down the tool itself. By attaching the guardrail directly to the function, the security logic travels with the tool. It doesn't matter which agent calls it or when it gets called in the workflow. The protection is absolute. Tool guardrails treat your functions as zero-trust boundaries, ensuring that no matter how autonomous your agent gets, it can never pass bad data in or pull sensitive data out. That is all for this one. Thanks for listening and keep building.